Okay, it's Friday morning. I survived yesterday, and I'm going to do some stuff today. I probably will end a little bit early because I'm kind of tired. Um, so I think what will happen is I will show you what the painting, I got painting done. I did this Wednesday after the stream. What the heck? Dust built up and stuff. Okay, so I did what I said I was going to do. I painted this green. We'll unmask that. Hopefully, there will be a green stripe and a white stripe. And why is there? See that? I haven't been able to see today either for some reason. Like there's a line. Dust got in there. I couldn't see that when I was painting, but it looks like there's piece of dust or something that got in under the paint. And the only way to fix that is to take it all off. But it's definitely a raised bit. Okay, well, this isn't done. I thought it was, but it's not. See how the other side looks. You can see it there. There's a flaw right there. So this is a real pain in the butt to fix. It's just sand it off, put a little primer on it, and put the paint back on again. Do what needs to be done, right? That is, it's catching my nail. It's up there pretty high. Try to keep things like clean, right, and spotless and all of that. Sometimes that just happens, and it's just a pain when it does. Not in a good spot either. I would like to just think that I could just spray green back over that, but I found that just doesn't work. Okay, well, that's one way to start the stream, isn't it? Is to say, oh, look, this is ready to go, and then spot just a real problem like that. Well, as I plucked it off. Okay, I'm just going to do this off camera. Do this done. Get around to it again yet today. So that was a start, wasn't it? one thing done not too terribly well. The other thing I did was I did paint some white on here and then reprimed it. I am not sure. Once this is painted red, it's still likely, it's possible that this will be a different shade, somewhat different shade than here, where the white is underneath. But I'm going to go ahead and get this prepped because the stripes are only on the bottom, not on the top. And there's a red, white, and green stripe. So I think on the bottom, what I'll do is I'm going to mask it so that the white stripe stays white. I'm just going to paint the green stripe on the bottom is what I'm going to do. And the rest of this all needs to be masked off so that the only thing that is showing is where the green stripe goes. After the green stripe is painted, I will have a green stripe and a white stripe, and I'll just mask those off and paint everything red, top and bottom. I think I'm going to start by, on the bottom here. It's a little bit of a pain because these attachment points, the attachment points for the floats, I guess, are supposed to stay red, which means taping around them somehow. I don't know if that's going to work that well. Actually, it's supposed to, yeah. Just a little bit of a challenge, more of a challenge than I wanted to have a challenge be. The green stripe ends right at the edge of the aileron there and goes right along this line where the attachment points are. And I can't even put a piece of tape down today. Maybe I should just, yeah. They are right where it's supposed to be, where the decals have little cutouts that go around them. Tape right down the center of those holes. I don't want green. I want that to be not green. And what I need to do is, maybe I'll just leave that. When it comes to it, I can touch those with a little bit of red paint. But the green stripe should go pretty much right along the center of those. Thinking anyway. Sorry, I'm just muttering. Today is a day. It's been a difficult week. Not to burden you with anything, but just as a way of explanation, it's just been a difficult week in terms of getting enough sleep and exercise and just stuff. So you would think that's pretty much it. It's not. Okay. Let me tape the other side of it, the other side, so that the green stripe is where the green stripe is going to be. Okay. You know, the only thing that's not taped is where the green stripe goes. And then I'll worry about the leading and trailing edges. Where does the stripe go? That is a question. It goes here. There's no real good, clean demarcation point for where it is. Okay. It's just there. It's that wide. You can see the cutouts there. If this whole thing were painted red, then this would go around it. There. But I'm not sure how this is going to work with me painting it on rather than using the decals, which I don't want to do. No clear indication where the stripe is. If that seems to be about the right width. To carefully measure this to make sure it's straight across. Guess that'll be okay. I need a very accurate ruler. I have come not prepared to have any ruler at all. There's a caliper. I don't know if that, do a makeshift something or other here. This is the plain. I used to have all sorts of plain sheets of paper here. Now I don't. I have nothing I need. I have none of the things I need right now. Yeah. What I want to do is I want to make sure that this is, the same distance here. And a ruler would tell me that, but I don't have one. If I could just cut out like a little here, maybe I can use this. I'm making a gauge. the absence of a ruler, I'm going to say this distance here is the distance that I want. It'd be way better than this. I'm going to just wait on this until I get a ruler. This is not relaxing, not painting. Things haven't. Yeah, with Dyson Dungeons. Okay, here are the floats on the ends of the wings. I painted them red. I taped the part that was brown. The red part is now red. The brown part is taped over, and I'm going to be taking the tape off to see just exactly how much touch up I need to do. I'm sure there will be a lot of touch up that I need to do to make sure that the brown stays brown and the red stays red. I'm not expecting this to go real well, so I'd be really surprised if it does. Edge isn't too bad. I don't know how red paint got there. Yeah, there's some touching up to do. I'll just have to be really careful about it. This one looks okay, pretty much okay. To say so far, it's maybe a little better than I thought. I mean, there's some little spots here where it probably should be red, but it will be brown instead. I think this will look okay. Yeah, I think I can make this look pretty much okay. The thing that I was most concerned about is what happened here, which is that this should be red there. There should be red there, and the spray didn't get right down to the edge. I'm gonna have to try to do that by hand. Yeah, because the tape just kind of interfered with the spray on that bottom edge. I maybe should have been more aggressive in the aiming of it. It doesn't look terrible, but it's just not as good as it should be. So I'll try. I guess I'm going to try with the red touch up first, because if I get the red on the brown, then I've said this before, I can sand it off a little bit and then get the brown to cover it. Can't do it with the red in the other direction quite as well. This is just annoying me. There should be some way. Maybe there's a ruler under here. Let me look. I think I used to have some. Used to. That were just kind of stuck in the corner. Throwing stuff around. I know. This, okay. We put that there maybe 20 years ago. It is an ancient, really, really ancient antique metal ruler that actually it's amazing. It goes down to the 64th of an inch. Look at that. Just 32nd or 16th. Most rulers just go down to like the 16th. This goes down to the 64th, which will do me no good. I can't see that well. Okay, that is 1/32 of an inch short of 5/8. And I think I can do any better than that. Yay me. Okay, now I need to put a piece of tape on here so that this gap is 1/32 of an inch short of 5/8. Huh. Yeah, that should be interesting. You think when this is done, anybody's going to be able to tell the difference of a 1/32 of an inch? I don't know. That's going to be green. This is going to be white. That's going to be red. But the green part goes first. To the other delicate part here is on the leading edge of the wing. Where does the stripe end, right? It doesn't go around. I don't want it on the top. So I want it to be right halfway down the leading edge. So I think that's pretty much on the center of the leading edge. I think that'll do. I think the trailing edge will be a little easier. Tape on the right side. Yeah. It's taped the part that I wanted to paint green. That would have been dumb. This is another one of those 64 7-inch things. This is it will give me a line for the white stripe when I paint the red over it. Okay, so this is going to be green. Green and everything else. All of this now needs to be covered. Well, I should do the trailing edge too. Nope, didn't get it right. Right. I'm just going to use this to cover the tip, wing tip, and then maybe it would help if I even just pulled off enough tape. Wow, this really is a day, isn't it? That's showing there. That would be great with a little bit of green right at the end. That would end up showing. So I think the most economical way of doing this is I'm going to cover the wingtip on this end, and then I'm just going to cut some paper out if I can get some papers from somewhere, and cover the rest over with paper. Just wrap it, pretty much, rather than wasting a whole lot of this tape. I can just use this painter's tape here. And I don't have, maybe there's some here. Butter. Want to cover that completely. This would be a good day for some sort of nuclear holocaust monologue about growing up in the 60s and not buying fallout shelters at the state fair. They did that. They've talked about that before. It's a real thing. is there were at least two vendors of fallout shelters at our state fair. You know, they come dig a hole in your backyard, bury the fallout shelter in it, give you a little hatchway or something, I guess. You could climb in. I think there were two options. You could either get into it through your basement, which made sense, I guess. You know, if you had a basement, you could just have a hatchway in your basement that let you get into your fallout shelter. If you didn't have a basement, then you'd have to have a hatch in the backyard. Get into it through there. The basement route was, I think the basement route was much preferred. I mean, it wasn't like it was you could keep it a secret if somebody came and dug a gigantic hole in your backyard and put a prefab fallout shelter in the hole. People would know you'd had one. But the idea was, the caveat was that if you had the hatch in the backyard, then your neighbors would know that you had a fallout shelter, and when you were bombed, okay, they'd all come running in trying to get into your shelter, and you'd have to fend them off. That was a big thing. You'd see that in TV shows and movies, is people killing their neighbors so that they didn't come into their fallout shelter and eat their hard candy and drink their water. But if it came in through the basement, then they'd say, well, the entrance is hidden. But like I said, if your neighbors saw you installing it, and they probably would, because they're digging a big hole and sticking something in your yard, they'd know you have one anyway. So either way, it would be more convenient to get into it through your basement, though, rather than running out in the yard, ducking and covering along the way, trying not to get hit by the fallout that was falling down around you. It'd be easier just to go through the basement door. That was recommended, but my dad said, no, we're not going to buy a fallout shelter. It was very disappointing. We thought it'd be kind of a cool thing. Could hide out in it, play games and things as a kid. It'd be a little hideaway, like a treehouse, but underground instead. And then you could eat the emergency crackers, the emergency ration crackers and the hard candy. That's the food that was in fallout shelters, including the public ones, the ones that were in the basement of my school. There were red and yellow hard candies, which I guess, were a source of calories. There was cans of water. Didn't have plastic bottles then, they were in cans, and hardtack dry crackers that gave you, I guess they were vitamin supplemented or something. I think the candies were too. Okay, well, this is ready to get painted green now. Get off a little bit. Yep, there we go. Green stripes on the bottom where they belong. Tape comes off. Tape the green, and where the white is, tape over both the green and the white, and paint the rest of it all red. And then the wing will be done, and it'll look beautiful, maybe. Okay. Clean up a little bit. by throwing things somewhere else, just pushing them off to the side. This isn't cleaning up. This is just moving things around, making the mess appear somewhere else. This out. That's kind of a cool thing. I'll just keep that there. Okay, I want to do some red touch up on these where the paint didn't quite get where it was supposed to go. This is the only way I have this is the spray paint, so I have to spray a little bit in here and brush it on. The situation I've got here is that when I spray painted these right along the edge where the tape was, the red didn't get as far up as I wanted it to be. So I'm going to try to touch that up very, very carefully. And then here's some of the red got onto the brown. That's not that big a deal. I will take some of that red paint off and just put several layers of brown paint on it. Cover it up. But I want to touch up the red first. I thought I had gotten this. I sort of saw it when I was spraying it, but no, I didn't. This isn't a great way of doing it, but it's the only way that I've got. There's a little reservoir of red paint there. And then to just touch it along the edge. What? Yeah, the paint dries so fast. Better. This side came out pretty well. Little bit right there. So growing up, there were these fallout shelter signs all over the place, these red and black circles with triangles in them. You probably have seen some because, you wouldn't be at home to be able to dive into your basement access fallout shelter, probably. Attack would happen at a convenient time. So, yeah, so we had fallout shelters everywhere. Our elementary school was one. There was a sign above every door and little signs that pointed us to the basement. You go in the basement and you'd hope that there were windows in the basement. You'd hope, I guess, that they wouldn't be blown out. Basement had a stage and it actually had a kitchen in it. So, it was pretty well equipped. But it was a fallout shelter, and then they decommissioned these things. In the mid 60s, I think. It must have been like around 63 or 64, 63 maybe. They decommissioned them because they said, well, I guess they're really not going to do you much good anyway. It's the truth. We we got to see what was stored there, and there were these big cardboard barrels, you know, there was canned water, and the canned water just disappeared somewhere. I don't know where they took it. And then there were these canned barrels, and there were two kinds of things. There was the barrel full of crackers, and we got to try those, and they were terrible. I think they euphemistically called them like nutritious biscuits or something. They weren't biscuits. They were just terrible dry crackers, is what they were. Okay. No biscuity about them. They were just crackers, and they were dry and really hard. And so, all the kids got to taste them. And like one or two kids said, "Oh, this is okay," which is their way of saying, "Yeah, right. This is terrible, but I'm going to eat it and say it's okay anyway, because you're all saying it's terrible, so I'm going to say it's great." So there were a couple of kids who did that, but they were pretty terrible. They were really dry and really hard, and you could tell that they would last forever because no insect or rat or mouse or even a rat or anything would eat these things. They were, I think, very much immune to any kind of predation. Anyway, most of those got tossed, right? Because no one would eat them. But there was another barrel, and it was full of yellow and red hard candies that supposedly had some, they had calories in them and maybe some sort of nutritional value. We all liked those. Those were fine. We did, in fact, eat those. I don't know if we got to keep the whole barrel. I mean, this was a big, like 55-gallon drum barrel, or at least it seemed like it to us when we were little. I don't know if I don't really remember if we got to eat all of those or not. There were a lot of them. I think we took them home. I mean, they were just going to get tossed anyway, and they were designed to last forever. They probably would have. Yeah, that was the experience with our school fallout shelter. That was kind of a cool thing when they made that, when they closed it down and we got to eat the candy. These will require a little bit of touch up. Hopefully this brown paint will cover, okay, that it will mask over the red, and they won't have to put too many coats on, and that it will level nicely with the paint underneath it. So the green stripe on there, the tail, I sprayed it green. I'll give it a little more green paint in a little while, and then unmask that and remask it. I have the fuselage that I've been avoiding, and I've got these little strut things. I think while I'm waiting for the red paint to dry on these, why am I just touching them in the wrong places in the way? Put them here. I just got this on a piece of cardboard so that I can carry it that way. I think I'm going to do this so that I don't do what I did with the fuselage, which is think it was attached and it wasn't, and then I dropped it on the floor. The only painting on here are these little stripes that are not taped. Everything else is not painted until that's all dried and I unmask it and remask it and everything else gets painted red. Hopefully I have enough red paint left to do that. Okay, these little struts, they don't even do anything. They in the real plane, they hold the horizontal stabilizer, the horizontal part of the tail. And they're numbered because each one is different from the other. One is shorter than the other, shorter and longer. And they're just, you can't even switch sides. So their numbering needs to stay numbered. Need to make them look okay. And that means it's really pouring rain now. See, when they came off the sprue, there's a little sprue is left over on there that needs to be filed down and then sanded off. And then these were injection molded, and so along the edges, both all the way around, is a little bit of flashing where the plastic oozed out between the two halves of the mold. So in addition to keeping them numbered correctly, I also need to not drop them as I am cleaning them up. Over this paper towel. So if I drop it, it's got this nice texture and it's soft. It shouldn't bounce. It shouldn't fly anywhere. So unless somehow I just let it go flinging, I'll file off this down till it's mostly but not quite done. And then I'm going to sand off the rest of it so I don't leave a whole lot of, when I have like a divot or something. This is weird. This plastic is usually really soft and files off quickly, but now it's not. This was injected, it's injected and it's held onto the sprue, which are those little trees where all the parts are attached. A lot of plastic gets wasted on those. If you look in the box, there's probably almost as much plastic on the sprues as there is on the model parts themselves. It's kind of like using spray paint, where maybe 25% of the paint actually goes where you want it and the rest of it gets everywhere else. It's kind of like the leading edge of the wing had this issue. The sprue is as big as the part itself and goes into the part. So it's not just like sanding down to the edge, but it's around it as well. This 800 grit. This will go a little bit faster than if I use the 1500 grit. And I'm not terribly concerned about little bitty scratch marks on this because it's so small, it's not going to show. I'm just going to what I'll end up doing is sanding the entire thing so that it has the same surface texture. And I want to try to not snap it in half. Even if it snapped, it wouldn't be exactly in half, but that would be too amazing. It would just snap in some sort of awkward, some sort of weird and awkward way. Edge here is this little bits of just a thin line of plastic that oozed out between the two parts of the injection mold. Instead of looking like a nice, well-formed piece of metal, it would end up looking like a piece of plastic with ridges on it. Is that what I think it is? Is there a circle? Really? I need to look at this under the head magnifier. I think for no reason at all, there is a circle molded into this. Yeah, there shouldn't be. It's getting the edge of the flashing off. No, it's not. It looked like there was, but there isn't, which is good. We should just keep these on while I'm doing this. It just is, I can see things so much better. I'm not going to look at the floats with the sun because, I'll never get them done because, well, maybe I will. Maybe I will. Just to, this is a 2x magnifier thing that lets me see everything that looked like it was looking really good, and now it doesn't because I can see it under magnification. So the flaws that were invisible to somewhat impaired vision become obvious when they're under magnification. Right? The thing that's gone well this morning, and so a lot of stuff really hasn't, is that I was able to get the dogs out and complete their elimination cycle before rain started. It sounds like it's really pouring out. Here in West Michigan, we're finally going to have warmer weather. It's been kind of chilly. It's been like, in Fahrenheit, it's been 25 at night and 40 during the day. High humidity, so it's been kind of damp. So this starting today, the temperatures are supposed to get up to above 60-degree Fahrenheit during the day, but it's supposed to rain the entire time. So it's not like, oh, let's just go outside and enjoy the day and take a walk or anything like that. No, it's, if you want to do that, well, definitely need an umbrella and probably some sort of raincoat thing. We got the dogs to do their business before it started to rain so that they don't need to stand there in the rain waiting for them to do what they need to do. Yay. I guess I shouldn't complain. It could have been that we needed to use those fallout shelters that were in the basement of our school. He's tried. But, we didn't blow ourselves up in the 60s, which was pretty amazing if you think about we're still talking about blowing ourselves up. We still have all those nuclear weapons left over, but nobody's. It's kind of sad that nobody is selling fallout shelters at the state fairs anymore. It was kind of cool. I mean, they had the full thing there. You could go inside of it. You could see where the food was stored. You could sample the crackers. They showed you there was fold up cots and chemical toilet. Nobody particularly cared about that. I don't think we couldn't test that. They showed us that where all the food was stored. I think some of them even came with like Geiger counters. You could tell when the radiation was down. There were all sorts of air filters. I think batteries. I think they had batteries. There wasn't a generator. You couldn't run a generator in there. At least I don't remember that. But I think there were like battery lamps and things. Because when you were in a fallout shelter, you were underground, like 6-8 feet underground. And you couldn't go out. That was the whole point. So there weren't any windows or anything. It depended on the battery lamps. The batteries probably, burned out after a week at most, and you're supposed to spend 2 weeks there. So it probably got pretty dark. Serve the batteries. You could hear the dads. Put that flashlight out. You'll use up all the batteries. Only use it if you have to go to the bathroom. And only do that to find it. Kind of thing. I don't think it's, there was probably like a CB radio or something, so you could try to maybe listen in on the emergency broadcast system. Listen to all the good news about what got blown up and what didn't, and how things were going and when it was safe to come out. I think a fallout shelter, like I said, it probably would have been a lot of fun as a kid. I mean, you could just, hey, Mom, going out to the fallout shelter. Okay, be back for dinner. Oh, don't worry about that. I'm going to have hardtack crackers and red and yellow candies for dinner. Okay. Don't eat them all. We'll need that when the bomb comes off. Okay. You could hang out there, and use the battery lamps and play games or pretend you were, surviving or something. And at least for a while, it would have been kind of fun. Interesting. I don't know. Having like a family of dad and like 3 or 4 kids for 2 weeks, no matter how good the chemical toilet was, I can't imagine it staying that good for that long. That might have started to get old, and then everybody would be bored. There wasn't any TV. You could only play sorry so many times before you got sorry, before that was sad. So thinking about it, even though when we were at the state fair listening to the guy and laying down on the cot and eating the hard candies and not really enjoying the crackers that much. say, Dad, please buy a fallout shelter. The reality of it probably wouldn't have been all that much fun. After 2 weeks of that, that's what they said, 2 weeks. I guess you'd have to kind of, I don't know, how do you keep track of the days, really? Unless there was a little window somewhere. There might have been, but the whole point was to have it hidden. I guess you needed a clock, and you just needed to pay attention to the clock to keep track of the days. It's probably how it would be. I'm sure your circadian rhythm would get thrown off pretty badly after a while. And then you wouldn't want to be thinking about what's going on outside. All your neighbors who hadn't bought a fallout shelter running around, going down to the local school where there was a fallout shelter, trying to get their share of hardtack and candies. All your civil defense people, that would somehow keep law and order when you all came out. After 2 weeks, everybody be coming out of their fallout shelters at about the same time because they'd all be keeping track of the time. And 2 weeks would be, it's 2 weeks, it's magic. It's okay now. I'll be wandering around, fighting over the last can. It would be like The Walking Dead or something, right? Things have been blown up. That was the whole point of it. People, some people will be fighting over cans of stuff that they wouldn't even eat, like canned tuna or salmon or something. It's like, ew, yuck. I wouldn't touch this stuff. But or sardines, little tins of sardines, probably. People will be eating stuff they didn't like just because. Yeah, that would have been pretty unpleasant, really. I'm guessing that my dad, made the right choice. It wasn't, back then dads made choices. Made the right choice not buying a fallout shelter. The whole yard would have been torn up, and then we would have had this thing. I guess what happened is that people who did buy these, they used it as storage, right? It's like part of the basement. You go through the hatch and you're in your fallout shelter. This is where you put all the stuff that you probably shouldn't have kept anyway. And just a storeroom. And why not? As long as it stayed dry and didn't leak or anything, it'd be a fine storeroom. And a place for playing hide and seek and that kind of stuff too. So it wasn't a total loss, I guess, for those people who invested in one. I wonder if there's still houses out there that were built like in the 50s that still have fallout shelters attached to their basements. It's interesting. Need to go on a real estate hunt now and take a look and find out. The things you think of when you start thinking about things. Those things is, so we didn't get one. We didn't get to play in it. I don't know anybody in our neighborhood who got one. maybe there was one. Maybe I have a vague recollection. I don't know. Somebody who knew somebody who put one in. They must have sold some of them because they were there, I know, for at least a couple of years for selling fallout shelters. I think it would have been in the late 50s, maybe. That'd be kind of interesting to put on your resume, wouldn't it? What have you done for the last 3 years? Oh, I was selling fallout shelters, selling and installing. That was another job killing thing, wasn't it? Talk about that. Job killing things that happened in the past, like the whole television antenna industry, the vacuum tube industry. And they were whole industries. Probably tens of thousands of people depending on the manufacture, sales, installation. Fallout shelter industry went that way too. And nobody whined about that. We didn't need any federal programs. I don't know if we didn't need them. We didn't have any federal programs to provide a safety net for everybody who was involved in the fallout shelter industry. It just came and went. I guess it had a longer life than hula hoops. Okay, kind of like that. If you wanted to make some sort of comparison of a short-lived kind of thing, shelters weren't exactly a fad in the sense of a fad. This one's kind of see. Yeah, we never did know anybody who had one. Like I said, I think I vaguely remember family members talking about somebody who knew somebody who got one. Who could tell if that was accurate or not? It's like we didn't know anybody. We didn't ever go visit anybody's fallout shelter. Of course, people weren't showing them off because they didn't want their neighbors to come attack them and try to get into their fallout shelter. But but there must be some out there. I can't imagine. I can imagine them being maybe filled in, like an old oil tank would be filled in or something. We had a fuel oil furnace when we first moved in here. We're kind of in a very rural area, so there wasn't any natural gas. The furnace was fuel oil. The alternative was fuel oil or propane. Oil-fired furnaces. That's another thing. I bet I don't even know if they sell those anymore. I know that the LP propane, that's what people think of it. I know that's out there in rural areas. That's still a thing. It's just like natural gas, but we have to use it. I mean, it has uses the same sort of utility appliance as natural gas stoves and things. You just need a different aperture. But our furnace was fuel oil. And there was this big, like 400-gallon tank buried out in front of the house. It was buried. And it was just a pipe sticking up that they used to measure the level and to refill it. And when natural gas came out here, we gave that up. And eventually we decided, well, we want to make sure it's not leaking or anything. So we paid some people to dig it up, and there was this big hole in the yard. But that tank was way smaller than a fallout shelter would have been. So I can't imagine that. That would be a typical thing to do, is to have someone come remove your shelter. I just can't. I don't think that would happen. So there must be some houses, especially houses that were built in the suburbs with large lots. A lot of that was done in the 1950s. There has to be some out there that still have fallout shelters. That maybe, as I said, are being used like storerooms off of the basement. I'm just going to go over all of these one more time. And then they need to be painted. I prime these first or not. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to do that. But it is, it's kind of tempting to, go real estate hunting in the 1950s vintages, subdivisions and suburbs and things. See if there are still any fallout shelters out there. I know all the public ones have disappeared. There might still be some. There might still be some, forgotten basements somewhere where nobody went to bother cleaning it up, where you can still find a cardboard barrel full of crackers. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if someone actually were hunting for that they could find that they would be able to find. They might even have the canned water and the candies yet. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it? You could do an archaeological excavation of an old fallout shelter like that. I could see that happening, especially, where the building hasn't really been reused very much, or maybe it was abandoned at some point, or it's just like nobody ever goes in the basement anymore. Or it's, oh yeah, those barrels have been sitting there forever and nobody bothered cleaning them up. That's the most likely, isn't it? It's just this, who's gonna clean it up? It's nobody's business, and they're not in the way. So there they are. And so if there was ever an emergency, that would be kind of ironic in a way. Like if there were an emergency, like a fire or something, or someone was trapped, they could live off of, and it's probably still good, right? As good as it ever had been. It never was good. It's probably still it wouldn't hurt you. You could probably still eat the crackers. Okay, well, those are cleaned up enough to be painted. I'm going to do now is put what's important is that I know what numbers they are when they're done. And this tape can take the paint off. So if I'm going to be painting them, but I'm going to hold them down with the tape because otherwise they'll go flying, is I'm going to use this tape for the holding part. Tape. I'm just going to put the blue tape over the number so that when I take these off later, I can take the blue tape off because that's going to get paint all over it. Take the blue tape off and reveal the number. Moving now, I'm just wiping them down a little bit, try to get the sanding dust off as much as I can. Done with moving these. I want to go back to the floats. The red paint, such as it is dry, and then I'm going to do the touch up with the desert yellow color. Hopefully that will go okay. And then the floats, assuming it goes okay, the floats will go in the done box along with the other stuff that's done. And then I will check the time and see how that's going, and also how I'm feeling. Achy and worn out. I had mentioned I had an outpatient medical procedure yesterday, and that went just fine. But just tired and achy today. Okay. Well, these are ready to be painted, and I guess I'll take the trouble to prime them first and then paint them. They're going to be painted the same glossy red as everything else. Other than the windshield, other than the windshield, which I probably need to get to at some point as well. Those are the last bits in the wing that needs to be striped, the last bits that need to be painted. Yeah. Clean up a little bit, just a little bit, to get some of this stuff out of the way. And then I'm not sure. I might either end early today, or maybe I'll start working on my maxi fig of my Ulseth Ralph desk stand. I'm not sure. These are the little extra parts. This is my box of mini parts. I could put the propeller together. That's something else I could do is assemble that. Maybe I'll do that. I'm not sure. So what I want to do with this is cover up the little bits of red paint that got on, that leaked through the tape. And I'm hoping that I'm hoping that I can do that not only very carefully, but also in a way that it levels nicely so it doesn't just look like blobs of paint were attached later time. And I'm going to put my head magnifier on for this. It's just, there's not enough light. I mean, that's one thing to make it bigger, but it's another, the extra light on here is really helpful. Of course, it's starting to get worn out too. Been kind of fun talking about fallout shelters. You know, it's not just a rerun of what I talked about the last time I talked about it. I mean, some of it is, like the State Fair Park sales and stuff. But the speculation about what's happened to them. If you could still find them, if they're like catacombs, kind of. Things that you can go visit. There's even like a museum display. If some museum somewhere maybe made enough room, that'd be kind of cool. If some museum somewhere made enough room in their air display area to show one. Go visit it. And kids could go sit on the cot. They could taste some of the candy and stuff. That'd be an interactive exhibit like that. Their parents could talk about how, oh yeah, they used to sell these at the state fair. And the kids always bothered us to get one because they wanted to play in it. So I wonder if that kind of thing actually exists anywhere. Weird little Cold War history museum somewhere or something. Even under magnification, that looks okay now. Get this one. And that was one of those. Most of the oopses happen moving the brush to and from something. I smashed the brush into the side of the little paint reservoir there. Almost mashed the brush. The tail of this really. So if I remember to do it, I might try to look to see if there's any kind of commemorative displays of fallout shelters sometime. If there was one nearby, I would actually go visit just to see it. To see if it's like I remembered when I was a kid. Now, this isn't perfect, but it's really not. It's going to be okay. This is one of those things that I keep saying is the model should be displayed. Let your audience get closer than 18 inches and make sure the light is not too bright. I think for the most part, this came out about as well. Yeah, I would say even under magnification, this came out pretty well. Soft. That's why they gave decals with the kit. Okay. So that one could paint this red and just stick brown decals on it instead of doing the painting. But it came out okay. The side where everything else is clocked up. Okay, the next thing is I'm going to go look at the vertical stabilizer to see how that's coming along and whether I need to put more green paint on it or whether it looks okay the way it is. Then I'm going to really need to go get new brushes. Even my 10-0 brush, my 10-0 sable, red sable brush from 20 years ago, okay, is starting to fade. To get the green thing and take a look at it. Oh, knee step. And here, it's mostly gone. There was just it was like a filament or something that got there. It needs another spritz. It's no official painty term. red, the primer, and the green you'll have to come up with me for painting over the weekend. So let me move some stuff around. Hopefully not causing too much of a problem. These are going to go in the done box. You'll get to watch me do that. So the next steps are these will be primed and painted red. Talk about waste of paint. It's so tiny, right? I'm going to be using 90% of the paint is going to be wasted there. These are green stripes on the bottoms of just the bottoms of the wings. I paint the green stripe, and then after that, I will be able to tape over the green and the white stripe, leaving the wing tips in the middle and the entire top to be painted red. That will be the thing. That will be the next thing. And then I'll have not decals, but painted stripes, green and white stripes on the wings. That'll look way better than the decals would. I got like an hour and a half left. I think I'll go. It's almost noon. Okay. I'm going to get the done box. The done pieces. Just to review, this is the engine compartment that goes way up on the top of the wing above this. This is the interior detail of the plane, and the fuselage, the top fuselage just fits over that and comes off again. This is the cart that it sits on when it is on land. These are covers that go above, on top of the engine here. Access hatch covers. I didn't cement them on so that you could take them off and see the engine detail. That was done. This is a hatch that goes on the fuselage. The horizontal stabilizer and vertical and rudder. This attaches to the thing I was spraying green. The white stripe goes down the center. And when that is done, it's not completely done yet. Once the green paint is dry, then I need to tape the bottom of it. Well, I need to tape the top of it so I can paint the bottom red. And then I can actually assemble the three parts, the horizontal stabilizer, the rudder, and the vertical stabilizer. I can assemble those. And then the whole thing will be in the done box. And nothing more will need to be done until it's attached to the fuselage. These are you can see the little holes where these struts attach. So I was kind of hoping to have gotten, the thing that I was painting green, with the flaw that I saw, which was a significant flaw, just put it off like a whole stream again. I'm showing off the done box because things are done. These floats are done. Done floats. They're going to go in the done box. Yeah. There's starting to be things in the done box. Yeah, pretty cool. What I can do next is someday I'm going to paint that minifig. Is instructions here. kind of skipping around in the instructions just because of the way these things get painted. I'm going to assemble this. This is the propeller, its backing, and the spinner that goes on the front, and it's not too big a deal, except the parts are small. These all have been painted, and they're in this little box of little parts. That's the gun sight that goes onto the windshield, and this is the airspeed indicator that gets attached to the side of the fuselage. I've told that story before, so I won't do it again. Okay, the way this works is that this goes through here like this. Okay. And then this is attached like that. There's to be some cementing done. And then this thing, once it's assembled, will go on the front of the engine, which is on the top of the wing. It's not in the nose. I'm going to go with the old faithful contact cement again. Primarily because these are painted surfaces, and the model cement just dissolves the paint and makes a mess. And this, if I use the contact cement, holds just as well. Gives me a little bit more time to get the parts oriented, It doesn't dissolve the paint. Get my little pointy toothpick applicator here. This will be another thing that will be done individually. These parts are tiny, so I kept them in the box. But once it's assembled, I can put this in the done box as well. Look at my finger. The other thing about this is that it doesn't mar the paint or the plastic. I'm really getting to like this much better than anything else, even though it's not what this is designed for. It doesn't mar the paint or the plastic, and if there's excess, it can actually just be rubbed off, almost like rubber cement can. This is supposed to set for a bit. Attaching the pieces, which is fine. The two things that are left to do, and I'm both of them I've been avoiding because they're kind of difficult. One is the clear the windshield. There's this clear plastic piece, which is tiny. It's more like this size. Okay. That needs to be carefully taped so that what would be in the real plane, the metal frame for the pieces of plexiglass or glass that would be used for the windshield are painted red. So that all needs to be taped, and there's tricky things like it has to come to this really specific little point here. And then the fuselage, which was coming along really well until I dropped it and picked it up. I'm not sure how badly marred it is on the side. I've been kind of avoiding that. And these are the last two bits that really need to be done, is that needs to be very carefully taped and then sprayed and then untaped, and hopefully it'll look great. This needs to be touched up on the inside. It needs to be unmasked. This circular bit here needs to be painted black. That's the canopy. It goes over the seat of the cockpit. Okay. Little bits of assembly, like once this is painted, that just gets cemented on, and then the gun sight gets cemented on or glued on with rubber cement. The wing attached and all of that sort of thing. The assembly is pretty straightforward. The prep for this is touchy. I've been avoiding it. And the fuselage, I don't know. It might either be okay and I can unmask it and touch up the inside and paint this and be done with it, or I might have to just sand down the whole side of this thing and reprime it and paint it and hope it doesn't have a problem. I'm not sure. I don't want to deal with that today. And then the horizontal stabilizer, you can see here, that's where one of the struts is. When that's put on the fuselage, those little struts numbered 9 through 12 need to be very carefully attached under there as well. This is getting down to that last 5% of, I don't know how this is going to go. I hope it goes okay kind of thing. This attached. What I need are much smaller fingers. I think that would make it easier if my fingers were tinier and more nimble. The contact cement grabs itself really well. And it still has a little bit of play in it, so I can push this around a little bit so that the parts line up better. There are these gaps. You can see these gaps in the spinner, okay, where the propeller is attached, and I think that's okay. In the real airplane, the spinner, that's what this pointy thing is called, that covers up the propeller connection, all the bolts and stuff, and makes it more aerodynamic, would have been a separate piece. And so these seams don't have to be filled in, because they wouldn't have been. This wouldn't have been a single piece. This would have been attached separately anyway. A little bit. You can see that this part's not painted. This shaft goes into the front of the engine. In fact, I could probably do that, but I'm going to let this set. I'll wait until Monday. I'm just trying to get this lined up. It's not quite. It's better now. Okay, it looks okay. I'm pretty happy with the way the propeller came out. You know, that's the same technique I use for our dungeon tiles, our wooden dungeon tiles. It's called Flat Earth, which is kind of a funny name, as the base coat and then smoky ink over the top. And it makes it looks like a really rich, nice, polished mahogany propeller. Let this set for a bit, and then I will put that in the done box as well. I can either try to work on the windshield in terms of taping that up, or I can start to paint me. I think I'm going to start to paint me. All right, I am. I'm going to start with the inside of the cloak because getting paint up in there, getting paint up in there is a difficult thing to do. I use the bigger brush and just get it all up in there. And then I'm trying, because getting the paint into there, I'll get it on other places. Knowing that, I might as well get that out of the way, and then hopefully, when I painted these other surfaces, like from behind there, I can get it in without getting it on the inside of the cloak. So to do that, these things are to be painted. This I'm going to put in the done box now. Done box back. I can tell it's a done box. It says done. People say, "Why are you signing like that?" It just feels better. I mean, it's kind of a nice, just a relaxation thing. Oh yeah, I should do what I said I was going to do. What I said I was going to do was paint the inside of the cloak. I actually had chosen the color that I want to use for that. But I didn't take it out, and so now I have to try to remember what it was. I have a lot of different greens. I could paint a dark green. Dark green would be an okay color, but I think there was another one. I was thinking of using this refractive green, but it's got too much yellow in it. This is, to me, a dark green as opposed to that's the Viejo dark green as opposed to the Tamiya dark green. I think I'm going to use the Viejo dark green if I can find it. The most of the armor, in this particular one, this was plate armor. Okay, so the minifig on which this is expanded, it was all just painted metallic. But I have a new set of armor, which is a Tashiranoon magical mithril, which is basically glossy green. And I need to buy some glossy green. If not, I can use this, which is kind of glossy. But I'm going to paint the inside of the cloak dark green. And that'll be a thing to do here. We use acrylics. I'm not supporting any particular brand. It's just what we happen to use. We got, and we can get them, fairly easily, is Tamiya's and Viejos. One's made in Japan, one is made in Spain. Here. Of this dark green, I changed my mind. The Viejo comes in a little squeeze bottle. This comes in a big bottle, and it's just easier to use to dip the brush in the bottle. The colors are almost the same. The outside of the cloak, I'm not sure how I'm going to paint that yet. I want it to look the way Nicole was able to get a green cloak to look in the past. It's multi-layered. It's like a light green with a dark green with a lighter green. She said it happened by accident. Okay, which might be true. It might have been that she just accidentally got it to look amazing. I also have speed paints that I could use. I have a green wash, but it's too yellow. It wouldn't look good. I'm going to paint the inside of the cloak, and the next things I'm going to work on are actually going to be the face and the head and the flaming sword. Do this first. I'm doing this first because it's the part where the paint will just you can just see. I mean, getting it in there, getting the brush up in there, is likely to get paint on a lot of other surfaces. And so just get it done. Reach up in there, get the paint on it. It's also, I may end up having to go back over it later. It's also the kind of thing where it's really quite easy to miss a spot. And paint over the filigree here. I need to get the green down into the lower parts, between the filigree bits. There's a nice edge there. There's a spot that's missed because it's really hard to get the brush there. It's a good idea. Rotate the piece in all those spots that were really hard to get that I would have just missed altogether. I can reach from this angle. Okay. Probably you'll need to do some touch up on this just because of, like I said, missing spots that are just hard to reach. I'm glad I'm doing this first. Trying to, if everything else was painted, just trying to reach down in there, getting little bits of paint everywhere. I probably, could have been more careful, but then again, I just wasn't. I knew I wouldn't be. So, in anticipation of my carelessness, I made the right decision in terms of the order in which things would be painted. There's no way to reach that. Getting paint all over whatever that is. This color, because I'm not sure that's going to end up. Done with this. I think I'll work on the face. I'm dabbing this on because the bottom is a rough texture. It's rough. It's a rough texture from the because it's the very bottom of the print, and this was done on a PLA printer. If I've missed spots, like I said, I might have to go over this again just for some touch up, but I wanted to get the inside of the cloak painted before I did much of anything else. I'm going to leave that, take some cleaning. That was just really bad. A different brush here. This was the old classic, not pay attention to what you're doing and stick your fingers in the paint trick. That's what I did. I did the classic stick my fingers in the wet paint trick. Yay me. I'm using a different brush because the other one is in the wash water. Well, that was messy, but I knew it would be, and so it is. This paint, this brush is just packed with green paint now. As are my fingers. Oh my, oh my, oh my. I watched every once in a while, for some reason, they'll come on. I'm flipping through channels and get on PBS, and there's a Bob Ross painting thing, right? And all Bob Ross is painting all these different colors with big, like, house brush paints. And he just goes like this, swishes it around, wipes it in a cloth, and somehow it's clean. No, it doesn't work that way. I can swish it all I want. Paint doesn't all come out. In this case, I'm going to use the isopropyl alcohol. Get this a little cleaner. I really like that brush. I don't want to lose it. Look at that. Okay, so I touched the paint here. I know that. How did I get paint there? A classic example of jumping paint. I know it's alive. The stuff really is alive. It just jumps out. It jumps out and attacks in ways that should just be physically impossible. Here, I'll do a Bob Ross. Look at me. That's what he does. Swish, 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 swish. He does it off camera, and the brush comes out and it's clean. But no, there's still paint in there, especially near the base of the bristles. So the Furbog Fighter has fairly dark toned skin, and for whatever reason, wow, now all of a sudden there's paint coming out. For whatever reason, its nose is darker. I think that's kind of silly, but all the pictures of Furbog show that the nose is darker. So this guy is going to have a darker nose. This is the. Is this the brush I want? No. Here that I wanted to use. Where did it go? There it is. One of these has more of a point than the other. I guess this is the one that does. I use this thing called bronze flesh tone. And I'm going to paint Ulset Ralph's neck and face with a base coat of this flesh tone. And then I need to fix that. Ulset Ralph does not have fangs. Its nose needs to be painted darker, but then the beard is going to be painted gray, light gray, with a kind of a dark gray wash. And that's what it's like on the little minifig. That's light gray with a dark gray wash. I'll go on for another. It's really first of all, this is trash. The little nozzle on the end is clogged up. Essential tools, little pins and nails. Times more than I need. I say that about every time. I mean, that's just a recurring theme, is always squeezing out way more paint than is necessary. So down here, if you can see it, this is why I'm doing this, is that way down there as the neck is showing between the beard and the armor. Push this paint down in there. If I waited until there's no way I could get that in there without getting it all over everything else. So that. The beard's going to be painted gray, so I'm not too worried about getting paint on it at the moment. I think I'll paint the ears this color. I think there's fur on the ears. I'll have to deal with that when I do detail painting later. There's some tufts of fur on the ears, and I'm getting green paint all over my hands here. I'm doing it again on the other. Oh, that's just great. Okay, that was just a prime example of making a mess with painting, messy painting with dice and dungeons. I put my fingers into, geez, okay, it's getting to be time to not do any detail stuff. So I was holding this and I got my fingers into the paint on one side of the front of the cloak. Okay. The only good thing at this point is that whatever gets paint on it is going to get painted over. The bad part is that it left fingerprints. That was I was trying to wipe off. Another fine example of how not to do things if you're doing this kind of thing. One is just don't keep sticking your finger in the wet paint. You would think that that's a pretty simple lesson. It is a simple lesson. It's very simple to say, don't stick your fingers in the wet paint. Unfortunately, I apparently have not learned that lesson, or at least it's not stuck with me well enough. Not only stuck my fingers in the wet paint, but as I was reacting to sticking my fingers in the wet paint, I stuck my other fingers in other wet paint, resulting in wet paint mess. It's not entirely clear, okay, where the hair is and where the skin is. So this is a how-to. What I've discovered is if I paint, a little bit further into the beard, once this paint dries, the boundary is clearer. This becomes clearer. That the gray paint will cover pretty well. So it's okay for me to get the flesh tone onto wherever the beard is going to be. Usually, and it's going to happen here as this paint dries, like with the eyebrows, okay, those will just become clearer than they were with just the primer. Know where the edges are. And then I'll be able to paint the eyebrows and the beard on. I don't know what this is supposed to be up here. Bit of hair hanging over, I guess. It looks wrong. I didn't even see that before when it was just gray. Okay. But there's just this bulge there. And that is going to come off. I'm going to take that off while I'm still noticing it. And then I can, the paint will still be good. I'll be able to touch up on it. But that, whatever that is, it's not good. It needs to come off. And I'm just going to, I think I'll just try to file it off here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's this, I think it was supposed to be part of his hair, but it just, no, it's just a lump. Sticking out of his forehead. Actually, probably could. I had the right snippers. I could probably just snip that off. It's the weirdest thing there. Just ruined my scissors, maybe. I could try to cut it off, but that wouldn't work either. This is one of those things that's good to see now, although it's going to get, should wait for the paint to dry. Otherwise, I'm going to get sanding dust in the paint and screw up the texture. Okay, I know it's there. It's just this protuberance. It's almost like a horn or something sticking out that needs to come out. To come off, I need to take that off before I go terribly much further with it, with this, with the painting. Remember that it's there and it needs to come off. A bit more painting. the flames on the sword, okay, the way I've painted these before with some effectiveness is multiple layers, okay, is starting with yellow. I'm going to paint all of them yellow, the whole thing yellow, and then apply different shades of orange and yellow and red to it. And if I can base coat it yellow, then that gives me more to work with. Yellow. Okay, I'm going to use the Tamiya yellow again, just because it's easier to work with the bottle and the larger brush. And base coat the whole thing, and I can put lighter highlights on parts of it and orange and other colors. And that the final result looks, well, it'll look kind of like this, okay? Yellow and orange and red. But when I painted the minifig, I actually used like 5 different colors in the flames. And since the flames are so prominent on this, I probably will do something similar. And after I get this yellowed, and I might end up needing 2 coats because the yellow paints tend to be kind of translucent as I continue to stick my fingers in the wet paint. Yeah, this might need a second coat, but we'll do that when the time comes. Seems to be all yellow, because then I can apply other colors, other yellows and oranges and reds to it. Okay, but the undertone will be this yellow flame color. Saying that like I know what I'm talking about artistically, I don't. The only thing I know is from experience painting flames, mainly campfire flames and fire trap flames, is that having this base coat on here gives just a lot more flexibility in terms of color application later. It's not altogether bad that it's kind of ponding up in some of these areas. I don't want the flame to be like monochrome. When I'm done base coating the flame and sticking my fingers in the wet paint yet more, is I am going to unmask I'm going to unmask this and remask it so I can paint the red on it. Oh, weekend. I'm intentionally getting the yellow onto parts that aren't going to be yellow because not that I want to be sloppy. I mean, yeah, I am being sloppy, but I want to make sure it's covered everywhere. And I'm not too worried about areas that are going to get painted over with multiple other layers of paint later. Just the blade of the sword. But if the base of the flame isn't colored yellow at this point, then it's a messy touch-up job later. Okay. Now you can see where the flames are supposed to be anyway. You can see kind of what the face is like. You can see the little horn that's sticking out that I need to get rid of. You need to start to imagine different, like lighter highlights here and there, and darker oranges and red tips and things like that, so that the flame will look all coolly, not cool. It's a hot flame. It does fire damage. Hi, Aman. Thanks for joining in again. Appreciate you dropping by. Yeah, I'll be finishing up. Yeah, it's kind of late. So I'll be finishing up in about like a half hour or so. But it's good that you came in. I know I wasn't sure if I'd be streaming today. I had that outpatient medical thing yesterday. It went okay. I'm kind of tired and achy and grumpy. I'm tired and achy and grumpy. So you've missed grumpiness today. And because I was grumpy, I talked about nuclear fallout shelters. It's kind of my favorite grumpy topic. I ended up speculating. Yep, the medical appointment, that part of it went well. I mean, the tests, they were doing some testing. And I get the results maybe the end of next week or the week after. They didn't act like it was anything urgent. So their lack of urgency was reassuring, but it was just an unpleasant thing. It was an unpleasant thing, and I came back achy and tired and grumpy. So I was grumpy this morning, and I have to apologize to the person I was grumpy to. This is Spot. Spots that can end up getting missed. So when did the training session happen? Was that something you did yesterday? Said it was funny. What? So, okay. Well, how many? Yeah, yesterday you were playing the game. Have you got like 3 things going on? Remind me about all of the ones that the ones that you're playing. Okay, every other week. That's not too bad. Then there's time in between. I am once again failing. Hey, I thought so. As you keep mentioning the ones that you're playing, you've got 4 games going on. I hope you're able to keep up with the one where you're TMing. For you, that's the important part. That me aside, I have been failing terribly in the pledge to keep my work surface clean. And look what I've done. paint got here. I don't know how. I know how that happened. I don't know how that happened. I don't know. It's amazing how I'm able to accumulate paint. Okay, I'm going to unmask this now. I hope it's okay. This bit here is supposed to be green and the rest under here is supposed to stay white. And then I need to mask it just along the top so that I can paint the bottom part of this whole piece red. And then it will be done. Guessing that yeah, right. Taking masking tape off should be very easy and straightforward. Tweezers. I'm going to take this off without making a mess of things. I'm going to scratch the paint by pulling off the tape. It's the one that counts. Oh, look at that. That's nice. Look at that. Nice lights, nice stripe. Oh, that worked. And that didn't. Oh, why did it leak right there? How am I going to fix that? This side came out so nicely. And this side has a spot at the top and the bottom. Okay. Well, that was after seeing the other side. That's really disappointing. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try just to scrape it off. Sometimes it's possible to do that. Can't believe it. One side is perfect and the other side is just not good. He's on to see what's happening. Sorry, right at the end, a major disappointment. Yeah, I'm going to have to try to fix that by brushing on paint. Wow. Well, that's sad. That was just so sad. Took the tape off of one side and it was, yay, celebrate, celebrate. And then the other side and it was, oh no, oh no. Let's hope this works. Oh no, that can happen, right? Just not very careful. Okay, well, I'm attempting to do surgery here. Even the brush I want. Okay, I might have to do multiple coats on this. It's sort of dissolving the paint underneath. Well, once again, in a situation where I was going to be doing is put off another stream, another streaming session because of an oops. I need to do some touch up on this again on Monday. I mean, it's not too bad right now. Hopefully that will dry, and I've got it like 90% done, but it needs another coat. But I was hoping to tape this off and paint the rest of it over the weekend, but I can't. I can't do that now. I have to get the touch up done first, and then probably I'll do the touching up and the taping on Monday, and then on Wednesday it'll be done, and then I'll be able to move on to assembling the tail assembly. Excuse me. All right, time to recap. Okay, and then in that system, huh? Network theoretically, how did it go? Did they have fun with it? Was the gameplay fun? Oh, good. Almost knocked this over. All right. I accomplished a couple of things today and failed at a couple of other things today. The very last thing I failed at was this, which still needs a little bit of touch up on Monday. I need to keep trying to cover up the green spots that appeared. I'm just gonna put this in the box here for now. Stay safe. I got paint all over my hands. So I'm starting to paint my maxi figure. Okay, yeah. It sounds like it's actually a pretty kind of fun thing to play. That the players had fun with it, and that you were able to ad lib pretty well. It sounds like you gave them quite a thing to deal with. That sounds like fun. Between now and Monday, these guys are going to get painted red. It's a pain. I mean, a lot of spray paint and tiny little parts, but they're going to be painted that same bright red as the rest of it. I'm going to paint paint the green stripes on the bottoms of the wing. The rest of the wing is all masked up. And on Monday, I will be unmasking this and assuming it goes okay. Okay. Unlike the tail, which was going okay until it didn't. Assuming it goes okay. It's a pretty fun thing, is to play around with a watering can. If this goes okay, it'll be green stripes. I will mask over the green and the white, and the whole rest of this can then be painted red. And as long as I don't drop it or get dirt all over it or mess it up some way, the wing will be done next week sometime. These will be done. If I can get the tail fixed, I'll be able to do that. I'm really getting closer all the time. So on Monday, the big things are going to be the unmasking and the remasking, putting these in that, fixing and assembling the tail assembly. No, I can't do it, finishing the touch up on the tail. And so what can you do? What can you change from what until what? Yeah, it's coming along, but it's down to little bits that, take up small amounts of time. So in between, I'm going to be working on me. This is my maxi version of my minifig. Oh, okay, that's a nasty sort of thing to do, isn't it? I'm going to be working on this guy, and I'll be finishing its face after I get rid of this horn that's sticking out here, and the flame on the sword, and probably finishing the sword with multiple layers of paint. And then I'll be working on, the armor. Most of the armor is going to be just painted. There's some underclothing here, paint those, but most of it's going to be painted glossy green. And then I'm going to be doing a lot of touching up on it. And I have to figure out what to do with the cloak to make it look amazing. I'm not sure. So try to do that. So, I'll be doing some painting over the weekend and touching up on Monday and making a little bit. Are you fluent in Latin? So that when you play the character, you speak in Latin? I learned Latin in high school and remember almost none of it. So that was useful, wasn't it? I need green for the stripes and primer and red for these bits. Okay. So the character is fluent in Latin, but you only need to know the words that the character says. I guess that's fair. I'm going to be wrapping up here because things have been, a little bit ragged and messy today, like usual. Been a couple of minor disappointments cleaning up because there's stuff everywhere that I think can be fixed well enough to move along. So if I can get the green stripes on and then tape it up for the red and get the wing painted, that's a major breakthrough. And then on Monday, I am going to check out the fuselage and see if there needs to be repair on that. I've avoided that all week long, and now it can't be avoided any longer because that's a thing that needs to be worked on. So I want to thank you, Aman, for joining in. I'm sorry that it's kind of like near the end, but I need to be wrapping up here, and I will be back on Monday, and hopefully things will go okay, mostly on Monday. Yep, it is what it is. Thank you. You too. I hope you have a good weekend, and I hope your games are going well. So, are you playing over the weekend? Are you doing anything over the weekend in terms of any of your games? I'm just curious about that, because then you can get to tell me about it on Monday. Ah, okay. So, so you'll be playing tomorrow. Yeah, on Monday. I hope to hear how it goes, and I'd like to hear more about the one that you're doing as the DM. It sounds like you're making your players, work pretty hard at getting through the game. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun with it, so that's pretty cool. I'm going to, get some of these things prepared for painting and do that over the weekend, and then just do little bits at a time as I can. While I start to do some serious work on my maxi fig of the character I play in my Dungeons and Dragons game. We will be streaming this Sunday. So Sunday at about 2:00 Eastern time, U.S. time. If you happen to get onto Twitch, you can watch an episode and join in live chat. It'll be starting, like I said, at 2:00 Eastern Daylight Time, U.S. time. And if you miss it, you can always catch all of the old episodes on YouTube or as a podcast. And because Dice and Dungeons is about the Dungeons and Dragons show and not about my making a hideous mess today, just really impressive paint jumping on my hands today. I'll see you on Monday, but yeah, join in, please, if you can at all. Check out our Dungeons and Dragons show. It's really worthwhile. It's very, very cool. It's a lot of fun to do, and it's a lot of fun to watch and listen to. Again, thanks everybody. Thanks, Aman, for joining in. I'm glad you had a really fun session, and I hope your session on Saturday goes very well as well. And we'll see you on Monday at more or less 10:00 and go until more or less 1. Thanks again. Have a good weekend. Take care.